If you've ever had a moment where you thought, if I could just go back in time, I would make different choices, that's where Kat is. She just has a memory bleed and a hidden system she's not supposed to have. Tripwire, Chapter 4, Glass. The sky was that pale shade of blue that meant the coal wasn't going anywhere. Kat sat at the kitchen table, a calculator under one hand and a thin notepad open in front of her. It wasn't for homework. She was sketching. Numbers, estimates, comparisons, ideas. How much would it cost to make a prototype? Could she replicate that thermos lid design? Would Mom let her borrow the iron to try molding plastic? In the living room, Mina was wrapped up like a burrito in a comforter, humming along to the theme song of the Magic School Bus blaring from the battered TV. Gong snored quietly on the couch, his chest rising and falling in a slow bellow. The apartment smelled faintly of old fabric, tea, and winter air leaking through the cracked window frames. Kat's mother had already left for her midday shift at the hospital laundry. Her father wouldn't be back till late. For now, Kat had the kitchen to herself. She stared down at her notes and then at the rough blueprint she had drawn the night before. A lunchbox, not just any lunchbox, the heat-retaining, moisture-sealed, stackable container. The memory of it gnawed at the back of her mind. A hazy, static lace memory wavered in her mind. The looping image of a product demo video that had gone viral in her first life. Some Taiwanese inventor had crowdfunded $1 million for a design half as good as what Kat had doodled as a teenager. She had let that idea rot on the shelf then, too busy mourning what she didn't have to see what she did. Not this time. With this second chance, she wasn't self-sabotaging. The next morning, Kat volunteered to walk Gong to the corner market for groceries. The cold bit through her sleeves, the sidewalks dusted with a thin powder of snow. They moved slowly through the aisles, Gong leaning heavily on his cane, Kat carrying the basket. At the checkout counter, while Gong fumbled for coins with stiff fingers, a sharp, shrilled voice sliced through the dull hum of the store.
There you are, Papa. I've been trying to reach you.
Kat turned. Her aunt strolled towards them, a designer fake purse swinging from one shoulder. Her expression painted with concern too theoretical to be real. Kat stiffened, sensing trouble before the first words even finished falling.
We need help,
her aunt said loudly enough for nearby shoppers to turn their heads.
The mortgage, the new insurance fees. You know how it is. Family helps family, remember?
Gong's shoulders faded and folded inward. His hand trembled slightly as he handed over the last coins to the cashier. Kat opened her mouth, anger already boiling up, but Gong laid a light, warning hand against her wrists. His touch was so soft it barely registered, but the message was clear. Next month, he said, his voice thin as paper. I will see. Her aunt's mouth pressed into a line, but she didn't argue. Instead, she gave Kat a pointed, lingering once over, taking in the fraying backpack straps, the patched knees of her jeans, and let out a theoretical sigh before flouncing towards the door. Her heels clicked sharply against the tile, fading into the chill outside. Kat stood there, breathing slowly through the burn climbing up her throat. She adjusted the heavy grocery bag on her shoulder as they left the store. From the radio mounted above the door, a bright announcer's voice carried after them. Tamagotchis flying off the shelves in Tokyo. Digital pets are the hottest craze. Get them here next week. Kat didn't even look back. Some kids got toys. Some kids got humiliation wrapped in obligation. She gripped the grocery bag tighter and found the step beside Gong. They walked slowly through the slushed silence stretching between them like brittle glass. Halfway down the block, Kat couldn't keep it in anymore.
Why? Why do you let her talk to you like that?
She demanded, her breath fogging in the frozen air. Gong kept walking, his cane tapping steadily against the sidewalk. Family is family, he said quietly.
Even when they're selfish?
Even when they treat you like garbage?
He didn't answer. Cat hurried a step forward, blocking his path. Why? Why help someone who only takes and takes? Cat's voice rose high with each word. Gong Gong looked at her and then his face shadowed under the weight of years she had never seen. Because if we stop helping, he said, voice barely more than a breath, we lose who we are. Cat opened her mouth furious. She wanted to shout that maybe who they were wasn't enough, that survival shouldn't cost dignity, that loyalty shouldn't hurt more than it healed. But Gong Gong just adjusted his grip on the grocery bag and started walking again, slow and sure. Cat followed in silence, the cold sinking deeper into her skin. Inside, she made a different vow. She would build something stronger than blood, something better than blind loyalty, something that couldn't be broken. Catherine's footsteps dragged behind him, sharp and angry against the frozen sidewalk. Gong Gong didn't turn. He kept moving, slowly and carefully, his cane tapping a steady rhythm against the concrete. He knew she didn't understand. She was young, fierce, unbent by the weight that bowed the backs of old men like him. She didn't know yet that some debts were written in the marrows of your bones, not because they were fair, but because they were all that you had left to give. Gong Gong adjusted the grocery bag against his side and kept walking. He didn't want Cat to learn endurance the way he had. He wanted her to build something newer, something better. His silent hope, the one he never dared say out loud, was that maybe, just maybe, this granddaughter of his would be the one to escape the endless cycle he could not break. He knew it already, though he would never shame her by saying it out loud. This granddaughter of his carried a fire none of them had ever dared to feed. Maybe she was already stronger than any of them ever could be. He just prayed that the world wouldn't crush it out of her before she had a chance to burn her own path through the dark. At school, the cafeteria was a chaotic mess of wet boots, clashing scarves, and shrieking laughter. Cat sat with her sketchbook tucked protectively under her arm, retreating to the edge of the music wing with the noise blurred into white static. She hunched over her table, sketching an improved lid-lock mechanism, trying to tune everything else out. Across the cafeteria, the navy hoodied boy was scribbling furiously in his own battered notebook, lost in whatever world he was building. The moment of quiet didn't last. A shadow fell across her notebook. Oh, Catherine, long time no see. Cat looked up into the smiling shark eyes of Joyce. She was flanked by two girls Cat barely recognized, sleek, lip gloss, laughing at nothing. Joyce tossed a brand new starter jacket onto the bench beside her with a casual flair. The massive Toronto Raptors logo gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Around her neck hung a chunky set of black headphones, wired into a shiny silver Sony Discman, dangling from one hand like an afterthought. Cat didn't even want to guess how many paychecks that ensemble had cost. Didn't recognize you at first, Joyce said, adjusting the volume on her Discman. It's been a while, hasn't it? You look more serious. Growing up finally? Cat flipped her notebook closed without a word. Joyce's smile sharpened. Still into those little invention projects, she said sweetly. Cute. Maybe you invent the next Tamagotchi now that you can afford one. They're all the rage right now, you know. The little jab slid into Cat's ribs with a practiced precision, but she forced herself to meet Joyce's gaze evenly. Still pretending to be original? Cat said, voice calm. Joyce blinked, caught off guard for a split second. One of the girls behind her coughed in surprise. Joyce recovered quickly, leaning in closer, voice dropping to something softer,
crueler. I heard about your mom. 2 jobs now, right? Must be tough. Bet it's hard to invent something when you can't even afford new shoes. Kat's fingers dug into the spiral binding of her notebook. We're managing, she said through gritted teeth.
Joyce shrugged, flipping her hair back. Well, if you ever need to borrow real tools, my dad's workbench still exists. You know, if you ever want to build something that doesn't fall apart. Kat's mouth twisted into something resembling a smile, all teeth and zero warmth. If I need advice from someone who thinks buying things is the same as building things, she said, I'll be sure to call. Joyce's smile cracked, just slightly. She turned on her heels and sauntered away, starter jacket flashing like a battle flag. Kat waited until the group had melted into the cafeteria noise before she opened her notebook again. Her pencil trembled in her hand, but the lines she drew were sharper than ever. In science class, Mr. Kwan dumped a pile of objects onto the front lab table. Styrofoam cups, aluminum cans, and a whole lot of colorful cloth pouches.
Thermoconductivity, he said, tapping the metal can. The reason your PlayStations overheat is because they didn't build them right. Maybe Sony can hire some of you if you can figure out a fix.
Some kids laughed, tossing eraser bits between tables as they passed back the worksheet Mr. Kwan had prepared. Grab a sheet and pass the rest back. Kat instantly bent over her worksheet, already sketching new insulation ideas in the margins. Clara, the quiet girl with lavender-scented hands, leaned over to glance at Kat's notes. You're not measuring? Kat shrugged. I'm trying to fix it first. Clara stared at her sketches, and eyebrows lifted slightly. That's smart, she said, so softly Kat almost didn't hear it. She blinked, warmth pulling unexpectedly behind her ribs. She ducked her head lower and kept sketching. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. That night, Catherine rummaged through the hallway cabinet and found the battered old glue gun. It still worked, mostly, coughing out uneven streams of heat. She set up her supplies on the floor of their tiny bedroom, the cold seeping through her legs to the thin carpet. Her parents had turned down the thermostat again to save on electricity. You're wearing thick sleeping clothes. You are under blankets. You'll be fine, they had said. Kat curled tightly around herself, feeling the chill creep under her sleeves, and plugged in the old glue gun anyways. She traced the beginning outlines of her future with trembling hands, stubborn against the cold. When she checked her system interface before bed, it buzzed faintly behind her closed eyes. Skills store. Design level 1. Grayed out. Cost 2 skill points. Experience points 345 out of 500. Skill points available 1. Almost there. She was almost there. At the bottom of the menu, a new suggestion pulse. Skill path. Practical prototyping. Progress 45%. Catherine smiled to herself. That progress bar was filling up, slowly but surely. She was getting closer to buying her first skill. On Friday, as the final bell rang, Mr. Kwan caught her on her way out. Kat? She turned, slinging her backpack high on her shoulder. I saw your notes in the lab, he said. The sketch, that was yours? She nodded, wary. You should enter the winter science competition, he said. 6 weeks until regional submissions. You've got an eye for application. Application. There it was again. Kat left the building with her notebook clutched against her side, and a wild, improbable thought bloomed quietly in her chest. Maybe this time she wouldn't just survive. Maybe she would build something that lasts, and dig her family out of poverty. Somewhere deep in the Appalachian Mountains, at a training camp no map acknowledged, Elijah tightened the wrap around his injured wrist and forced himself through another lap. The cold bit through his sweatshirt. The snow crunched under his sneakers like breaking bones. His breath came in ragged bursts, visible for a second before vanishing into the freezing air. The day bled from one exercise to the next. Laps around the perimeter track, strength drills in the old rehabilitation wing that stank of bleach, cracked leather, and cold metal. His wrists ached with every motion, the tendons bruised from a botched landing during his last mission. Cracked rib, before that, a shattered orbital bone. It didn't matter. No one asked, no one cared. From a battered speaker inside the half-frozen mess hall, a grainy pop song seeped out into the air. Oasis Wonderwall, lazy and half swallowed by static. Because maybe you're going to be the one that saves me. Elijah didn't slow. He didn't look. The normal world was just background noise now, a ghost bleeding through the cracks in this forgotten place. At the edge of the track, two instructors in black coats stood with clipboards and hard, detached eyes, murmuring to each other's in clipped American English, their breath frosting the air. One squinted at Elijah as he pounded past, sweat steaming off his shoulders despite the cold. Built like a damn Norse conqueror, he muttered. It doesn't matter. In this machine, even Viking sons are disposable. Elijah kept running, his lungs burning, his sides aching, the cold tearing at his skin like invisible claws. Someday, he thought, not now, but someday, the machine that built him would regret forgetting he was human.
If you're still here, then maybe you felt it too. Something moving underneath the silence.
The system is listening now. Just don't blink. Follow the next transmission.